Friend Kyle Bass, founder and CIO of Hayman Capital Management. Any hot take, Kyle, on the Fed and Jerome Powell right now?
You know, look, I think if you look at what's driving our economy and what has driven it in the past, it's really been consumption. It's been consumers and consumption. You look at this most recent release today, consumption only grew 1% this year so far, and last year it grew 3%. So I think you're seeing the two descents that you see are the first two descents that have happened since 1993. And those descents were both focused on the consumer consumption behavior and labor market. So, Brian, with inflation running about 2.4 and short rates being 4.3% effective, the Fed is certainly too restrictive. I think rates have to come down. I think, you know, the dot plot has 2 cuts this year and 1 cut next year. I think that you're going to see more cuts than that, Brian.
All right, fair enough. And I want to move on, though, Kyle, because I got you here, and you're the global macro guy. Outside of the Federal Reserve, there seems to be a thawing in the relationship between Xi Jinping of China and President Trump. They're saying nice things. Trump is likely going to go to China. Maybe things have tamped down a little bit around Taiwan. If we get like a hug it out moment between Xi and Trump, does that add another bump to the stock market?
You know, Brian, in the end, you know where I come out on. I think that both sides, if you look behind the scenes, both sides are preparing for war over Taiwan. We are gearing up our Defense Department, our war machine, to be an effective deterrent against China's militaristic belligerence over in the South China Sea and in the Taiwan Strait. China continues to build its nuclear arsenal at record pace. It continues to build its invasion forces at record pace. And when you look at what we just did, we just enabled or allowed the NVIDIA H20 chips to go to China unrestricted into their military apparatus. And in exchange, we got some rare earth magnets that run Ford's electronic vehicles. This was a hostage swap. And this was as bad as the swap that we made with Russia, with Brittany Griner for the Merchant of Death. It was just it wasn't a smart transaction. And cozying up to Xi and trying to get some deal. I understand that diplomacy should lead here, but in the end, we are every single concession we give to China enables them to build their war machine, modernize their combat forces, and focus on, again, we give them the ability to run inference with their AI models with these chips. That's exactly what the H2O or H20 chips are for, Brian. So when we talk about what's going on with China, President Trump, I believe, wants to make a deal. But I can tell you his deal makers behind the scenes are being as tough as they can possibly be on China and giving the data to the president to make the decision.
Speaking of war, speaking of Russia, President Trump making some more threats around Vladimir Putin. I think is maybe the underreported story of the stock market right now. Basically, you've got 10 days to get some kind of a peace deal done with Ukraine. We're going to really, this time we mean it, enforce sanctions. Is that a hollow threat?
I don't. You know, there are a lot of people that coin the term and like to bring about the taco, right? Trump always chickens out. I would bring in the term the FAFO, FAFO here, Brian. Yep. Look at what
we know
Trump
what that means.
Yeah, we all know. But when you look at what Trump did with Iran, he gave a deadline and he stuck to it. When you see what he's done with tariffs, he's told people, you need to make a deal with us. You don't need to escalate. We're trying to reset the trade relationship, given the U.S. being the largest deficit-producing trader in the world at about $1.2 trillion in goods annually. So I think, and now he's focusing on Russia. When President Trump draws a line, he is not going to move and he is not going to chicken out. When you look at what we can do to Russia, right now we have all the Russian banks, major banks, on sanctions, but there's still a handful of very large call it correspondent banks of foreign entities that allow Russia to have access to the SWIFT system and move dollars around. So we can close those doors, Brian, and it will really be painful for Russia. So I would focus on the deadline, and I wouldn't bet against the president and Scott Bessent on this one.